Let me ask you something. When was the last time we came out of OTAs with this much uncertainty surrounding the Raiders' top defensive free agent? I mean, Christian Wilkins was there, but he wasn't really there. No helmet, no boot, no participation, just standing on the sideline in good spirits. And on the surface, sure, that might seem like a good sign, but when you dig into what Pete Carroll actually said, it paints a much different picture. He called it a long and challenging process. Now that's the kind of language that makes you pause, especially when we're talking about a 300-pound lineman coming off a Lisfranc injury. This isn't a sore hamstring we're talking about. It's a serious foot issue, and every Raiders fan should be keeping an eye on it. What's up, buddies? Welcome back. If you are new here, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We cover all AFC West news here on this channel. And look, I get it. It's May. There's time. But if there's even a small chance that Wilkins might need another surgery, that changes everything. That puts real pressure on the depth chart, especially when the Raiders are building everything around the strength of that defensive front. If the guy you just paid big money to isn't ready for week one, that's not just a setback. That's a ripple effect that hits every layer of your defense. From the edge rushers to the linebackers, everyone's job gets harder if your anchor in the middle isn't 100%. And what's frustrating is the lack of clarity. We've gone from seeing Wilkins in a boot before the draft to now being told it's a long recovery, but also watching him out at practice in decent spirits. That disconnect makes you wonder, are they downplaying something? Or are we just not getting the full picture? Now, not everything out of OTAS was negative. In fact, let's give credit where it's due. Kolton Miller showed up. And not just showed up, he participated, and that matters. The guy's still looking for a new deal, but he's not making it about himself. That's leadership. That's maturity. That's exactly the kind of tone you want your veterans setting at this stage of the offseason. He didn't have to be there, but he was. That tells you everything about who Miller is and why he's one of the most respected guys in that locker room. For a young roster trying to establish consistency, having a leader like that present at voluntary workouts makes a real difference. It sets an example the younger guys can follow. Then there's Malcolm Kunze, still on the comeback trail from his ACL tear. He spoke to the media today, and while he keeps it short and direct, you can feel it. He wants to be back. He's hungry. He's locked in. But still, no participation yet. So, the Raiders are playing the long game with him, and for now, that's probably smart. The last thing this team needs is to rush a pass rusher back only to risk a setback before camp even starts. You can tell he's itching to go, but the staff is being cautious. And rightfully so. But one of the most interesting developments today had nothing to do with the usual names. It was Laki Tazi, the International Pathway Program player. He was spotted working with the offense today. Why does that matter? Well, if you've been following closely, you know there was a big debate about banning the tush push. The Raiders voted to ban it. But the league kept it. So now, if Tazi is being groomed as a short yardage weapon, a specialist for that specific play, it might explain a lot. Maybe the Raiders thought the play would be gone. It's not. So now they're adjusting on the fly, and that's a storyline worth watching. At 6 feet 6 inches, 300 plus pounds, Tazi has the kind of leverage and raw power you want when you're trying to push a pile. If nothing else, he's a project with upside. And it's encouraging to see the staff already thinking creatively about how to use him. Now, let's shift to the action on the field. Day 2 of practice was all about defense. If you're keeping score, that's one win for the offense on Monday, and now one for the defense on Wednesday. So, we're tied up. But here's what stood out. The secondary looked sharper. The pass rush looked faster. And while Geno Smith did throw 2 touchdowns, he also threw 3 interceptions. That's not nothing, and it's not ideal. But it's also not the end of the world. Before we overreact, let's be fair. It's a brand new offense. Chip Kelly is installing a whole new system, and that takes time. Pete Carroll even joked that Chip would come out tomorrow swinging harder, trying to win the day. That's the energy you want. That's the competition you want. And honestly, if I'm the coaching staff, I want Geno taking those deep shots right now. I want him to test the secondary because, let's face it, the biggest question mark on this defense is still the coverage unit. So if your quarterback is throwing picks while trying to stretch the field in May, that's fine. Better now than in September. It's part of the growth curve. And if you're not pushing limits during OTAS, then you're just going through the motions. That said, it wasn't all bad for Geno. He hit Trey Tucker deep for what was reportedly a gorgeous touchdown, full layout catch, highlight stuff. And this is the kind of play that makes you stop and wonder, could Trey Tucker be more than just a gadget guy? Could he actually become that Tyler Lockett-type vertical threat? Maybe even challenge Jack Beck for that WR2 spot? It's early, but days like this matter, especially for a second-year guy trying to carve out a bigger role. If Tucker can bring that vertical element consistently, it opens up so much more for this offense, particularly for Michael Mayer and Brock Bowers underneath. Another name that popped, Dante Thornton Jr. He caught a touchdown over Jeremy Chinn, who we'll talk more about in a second. That's a 6-foot 5-inch receiver winning on a red zone play. That's exactly what you want to see from a guy fighting for reps in a crowded room. And yeah, Jeremy Chinn gave up the score, but it was a great ball placement by Geno, and Thornton just made the play. Sometimes it's not about bad coverage, it's just good football. But Thornton standing out early is important. He's one of those depth names that could sneak into the conversation if he keeps stacking practices like this. Alex Backman also drew some praise. Not flashy, but solid. Crisp route running, clutch catches. He's one of those guys that might fly under the radar all summer, but by late August, he's forcing the coaches to have a tough conversation. Every team needs a guy like that. Someone who doesn't demand targets but makes every target count. That's how you make a 53-man roster from the bottom up. Then there's Michael Mayer. And this was good to hear. Clutch catches, took a hit, made a contested grab. And more importantly, he's already showing chemistry with Geno Smith. If Mayer continues to build on this, he could become a reliable safety valve in the middle of the field, especially if the Raiders plan to throw the ball 35 to 40 times a game. For a young quarterback trying to get into rhythm with a new scheme, having a TE who knows where to be and can win tough catches is invaluable. Now let's talk about defense. Because this unit showed up, Jeremy Chinn made a statement. First play of team drills, he picks off Geno. That sets the tone. And yeah, he got beat once, but he rebounded. And what's even more important than the play? His presence. Pete Carroll said Chinn is already standing out as a leader, and that's big. He's new to the team, but he's acting like a captain. That's what you want, especially when you're building from the back end forward. Other guys making noise. Tommy Eichenberg, Lonnie Johnson Jr., and Chris Smith II, all with interceptions. Johnson's came against Aiden O'Connell, but the takeaway is the same. This defense is flying around, making plays, competing. And when you're trying to change a culture, that's the stuff that matters. It's one thing to say you're going to play fast. It's another to go out and create turnovers in practice. That's what wins jobs. Up front, Leki Fotu and Jonah Laulu got shout-outs for their work in the trenches. With Wilkins sidelined, that interior rotation becomes even more important. Fotu especially has the size and power to eat up blocks. And if he can establish a presence early, it gives the staff some breathing room while they figure out what's going on with Wilkins. And Laulu, he's starting to generate some real internal buzz. Maybe he's further along than people thought. And if you're wondering who's stepping into that green dot role in the middle of the defense, it's Elandon Roberts. No surprise there. Vocal, smart, aggressive. The coaches are already saying he owns that leadership role, and he's embracing it. Okay, now LWT's talk about press conference quick hits. Max Crosby was asked about the Olympics, said he'd love to represent the U.S., but not at the expense of missing Raiders training camp, so he's focused. Priorities are straight. And Pete Carroll, as always, gave us some nuggets. He praised the young guys, Brock Bowers, Ashton Jeanty, Jackson Powers Johnson, calling them all humble superstars. And that last part stuck with me, because it tells you exactly what kind of locker room this staff is trying to build. Guys who are ready to work. Guys who aren't about headlines. That's the future here. Pete Carroll also called Geno Smith elite. That's a bold statement. Whether you agree or not, it says everything about how this team views their quarterback. They're putting the keys in his hands. And if Geno delivers, this team could surprise a lot of people. So yeah, the injuries are something to monitor. The turnovers aren't ideal. But the competition, the energy, the early standouts, it's all trending the right way.